Amid calls for restraint by Western nations, Israel has vowed to retaliate. Following Iran's unprecedented attack, the United States, Russia, Germany, and Britain has urged countries in the Middle East to show restraint and avoid any escalation. However, Israel has vowed to exact a price from Iran in retaliation for the large-scale aerial assault on its land. All eyes are now on the beleaguered Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who faces pressure to avoid further escalation from global allies, while members of his own cabinet are urging him for an aggressive response. The European Union and Western leaders have indicated that they are looking to impose further sanctions against Iran. The Americans, British and the French militaries did help Tel Aviv in shooting down the missiles and drones launched by Iran, but the Israeli Prime Minister is facing pressure from two ends. The pressure from Israel's allies, pitted against pressure from his own governing coalition. Netanyahu's 4-seat majority is dependent on the support from some of the most conservative political parties in Tel Aviv who are demanding for Israel to strike back and avenge Iran's attack on the Jewish land. So what does Israel want to do after Iran's drone and missile attacks? Well, polls in Israel show the Prime Minister's popularity to be at a critical low. In the months leading up to October, Netanyahu had been facing increasing pressure to step down. Months before the attack saw hundreds of thousands of Israelis participate in repeated demonstrations against reforms proposed by his government that critics had said weakened the country's independent judiciary. Protests had been growing against Netanyahu's handling of the war in Gaza as well, and pressure for the Prime Minister is building from all sides. The Prime Minister is being pulled in opposing directions by his coalition partners, Israeli public opinion and allies abroad, with the war in Gaza and his political future in the balance. Meanwhile, relatives of hostages have also expressed outrage at Netanyahu's handling of the negotiations with Hamas aimed at achieving the release of their loved ones and a possible ceasefire. Israelis say that the Prime Minister is so determined to pursue the destruction of Hamas that he might just do it at the expense of their loved ones and hostages. So will Israel respond? Well, according to The Guardian, it is widely expected that Israel's next steps will have to be calibrated along two axes. The country must take some sort of action to demonstrate to Iran that such an unprecedented attack cannot pass without consequences, but at the same time must take into account Tehran's threat that it will strike again and with greater force if Israel retaliates. There are three main factors Israel must weigh on before it responds. According to Ras Zimit, a research fellow at Israel's Institute for National Security Studies who focuses on Iran, says that there are three main factors that Israel must weigh on before any sort of response. First, how will Iran respond, since they have made it very clear that any Israeli retaliation will be met with an even harsher reaction? Second, what will be the United States' position if Israel does plan to react? Well, the United States has made it amply clear that they are not interested in reprisal strikes against Iran, and Biden is clearly not interested in any significant escalation with Iran. Third, Israel has been trying to avoid opening new fronts so it can focus on fighting the Hamas in Gaza. But the question is if Israel can cope with another war while fighting in Gaza. Well, former military officers are quite confident that Israel would be able to emerge far better off than Iran if the two sides do indeed go to war. The country has prepared for a multi-front scenario for years. However, a regional war would require huge amounts of weaponry, ammunition, and air defense missiles, which could then perhaps overwhelm Israel's sophisticated multi-layered air defense systems. So while Israel is still weighing its options, many are closely watching just how Iran's attack could alter or change the Middle East political landscape.